Come to think of it, you yourself are part Dutch, and your family moved to South Africa because of the wonderful opportunities that the apartheid state could offer white people. What you're doing is a crime. I am the victim. Elon, you are the richest human in history, and that is largely due to the fact that your starting point in life was as a white male from a rich, affluent family living in apartheid South Africa, where you had the white minority stealing the land of the black indigenous majority and subjugating them as second-rate citizens. This injustice will not stand.
Now, the tensions between South Africa and the United States seems not to be going down anytime soon, and it is taking a twist right now because formerly it was an altercation between President Trump and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. But right now, it has taken a twist where Elon Musk, who is a South African, is now at war of words with Julius Malema. And Julius Malema said, bring it on. Does not fear Elon Musk, and he says Elon Musk is a nobody to him. Apart from that, whites in South Africa are responding after they realize that America has provided them a chance to be Americans if they ever get deported or persecuted in South Africa. So whites are responding, and some of them are saying, we don't want your proposal. We are happy the way we are here. Others are saying, you don't know what's going on in South Africa, and please keep your America and let us keep our South Africa. Let's listen to these clips and then come back and share our thoughts together.
Kill the Boer! Kill the Boer! Oh my god, they want to kill the whites! No, Elon. Boer is a reference to Dutch colonizers who came to colonize Africa beginning in the 17th century. This is part of South African heritage. The fact that they've been colonized by Europe. I mean, entire books have been written about what European colonizers did to Africa for 4 centuries. Not least of which was the transatlantic slave trade. No, they want to genocide the whites. We should arrest them all. This is akin to someone saying kill the Nazis and you being like, no, they're saying kill the Germans. Oh my god, another woke moralist. Come to think of it, you yourself are part Dutch, and your family moved to South Africa because of the wonderful opportunities that the apartheid state could offer white people. What you're doing is a crime. I am the victim. Elon, you are the richest human in history, and that is largely due to the fact that your starting point in life was as a white male from a rich, affluent family living in apartheid South Africa, where you had the white minority stealing the land of the black indigenous majority and subjugating them as second-rate citizens. This injustice will not stand.
Hey lovely people, and particularly a quick word to my American friends who might be tempted to believe what Donald Trump is saying about South Africa, my home country, where I happen to be right now. Him and Elon Musk are racist twats who have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Because what they're doing is taking the word of a fringe racist group called Afriforum and other disaffected whites, disgruntled by the end of apartheid, feeling hard done by, and much like the Israelis, victimizing themselves when they are not victims at all. Bitching about how, you know, land redistribution is racist against whites. These are such ignorant provocateurs, and it's going to backfire on them. South Africans' majority, the black majority, and it's a multiracial, multi-tribal society now, only own a tiny proportion of the land versus the size of their population. And while white South Africans make up 7% of the population, more or less, they own about 70% of the decent land. And so the redistribution of land is to address past inequities, and the vast majority of South Africans agree and understand why that's happening and that it's a good thing. It's also under a very strict mechanism. Now, not everyone agrees, of course, with the mechanism, but the principle is what racists like Musk and Trump are railing against here on behalf of a bunch of assholes who equate equality with oppression, because for so many years, decades and decades of the apartheid era, they were the oppressor. And as we know, whenever the oppressor looks at something like equality, it suddenly becomes oppression of him. So fuck Elon Musk, fuck these idiots from Afriforum. You probably know nothing about them, but this is a bunch of, you know, the equivalent of your kind of Proud Boys hanging on to some past that never actually existed, and a past in which the vast majority of people in this country were oppressed, suppressed, and treated much like, fortunately not quite as badly as the Israelis treat the Palestinians. So this whole railing against South Africa, I'm going to add one more point. South Africans, on the whole, all of us, white, black, Indian, colored, which is not a term, is a specific term for those of you who might get offended by that, a specific racial group. We are very, very resilient people. As a country, we have gone through a great deal, both in terms of the early part and then the transition from the apartheid era to genuine multicultural democracy. And whatever Trump throws at us, we can handle it, because we've been through far, far worse in our history. And my hope is that South Africans all turn around with one voice and tell Trump to fuck off with his sanctions and his fucking withdrawal of aid and his tariffs and all of this stuff, because we can live through it. What I'm not sure about is whether Americans can, because for the most part, all the stuff that Vivek Ramaswamy said recently about Americans being soft, not prepared to put in the hard graft, and all this stuff, I tell you, for the experience of most foreigners is true. And it's not true of every American I know. Some of them are the most hardworking, wonderful people in the world. But as a general principle, South Africans are far more resilient and able to withstand this kind of bullshit authoritarian pressure than any American population. So to my fellow South Africans, let's stick this out. Let's stick up the middle finger to Trump, and particularly to Elon Musk, because we know from his background that he left South Africa in the apartheid era and retains the racist bullshit that's motivating these people like Creel. And now that I'm in South Africa, I'm seeing their awesome, ridiculous tweets. Fuck those guys as well. They're the past. Most of us are the future, and it's a beautiful future.
I got this comment, actually it's not the first one, there was a couple of them, but comes down to the same thing. What's your take on Afriforum, sir? Please give your honest opinion. Everything, first of all, that I do on TikTok and I say is honestly what I think and what I feel. Okay, we live in a country, we are supposedly supposed to have a democracy. Now, in a country where you have democracy, you cannot have an organization that only caters for one specific group of people. A democracy is supposed to be... Sorry, I can't stand still while I'm talking. Democracy is supposed to be by the people, for the people. Nowhere does it say by the people for certain colors. So, Afriforum is an organization that only caters for white South African farmers. You cannot have that in a democracy. This land cannot move forward if we keep being stuck on color. We are supposed to see other South Africans as human beings and not black, white, green, yellow, orange, purple, name what color you want. We are supposed to be one country with South African citizens, and to have organizations that only fight for specific groups of people is just bringing more divide in the country, and that is what we must try and fix. We must try and fix this dividing thing going on here, because it can't work. It cannot work. It's impossible. Afriforum is not, unfortunately, the only organization that fights only for the rights of a specific group of people. And the moment we start fixing that and seeing fellow South Africans as human beings and not by the color of their skin, then we can only start to move forward in this country. I just want to make one thing clear. I'm just a normal South African, born and raised in South Africa. Grade 12. I didn't go to university. I didn't go to college. Regarding politics, I'm still also learning like anyone else. But the things that I say on TikTok is things that come from my mind. And I think there's nothing wrong with my mind. And I think things I say is the way I see them. Yeah, we might all differ. I'm not saying what I'm saying is right and what you are saying is wrong. But I just wanted you people to know that. As for this question, Afriforum is an organization that only helps white South African farmers. That is wrong. You cannot have that in a democracy. We are supposed to help each other as fellow South Africans, fellow human beings, and not certain race colors. That is why this country can't move forward, because of something like that. I hope I've answered your question. Please let me know. Enjoy the rest of your day. Today is a very nice day here. We've got some weather, as you can hear there. Look at the clouds. Enjoy your day. Love all South Africans. Forget about color. Love all South Africans as human beings.
We gotta talk about what is happening in South Africa, because a major country has now frozen all aid that will go towards South Africa, all because they believe that South Africa is discriminating against white people. And surprise, surprise, that country is the US, and the person who decided this is Donald Trump. What Trump is accusing South Africa of is unlawfully stealing the land of white people in South Africa to give it to black people or other non-white South Africans. So now he has signed an executive order to cut all funding towards South Africa because of the unjust racial discrimination that this country is being accused of. The order criticizes a law signed by the South African president that allows for land to be expropriated with nil compensation in limited circumstances. As we all should know, South Africa was ruled by white people during the time of apartheid. While they were the minority in the country, they had full control of the country, and they violently oppressed the country's black majority and every other person that was not a white settler. They forced them to live in segregated townships and rural homelands, as they called it. They took away most of the land from the black population, made it impossible for black people or anybody that was not white to prosper, and while officially speaking apartheid is over, the effects are still lasting to this day. The settlers, or the Afrikaners as they call themselves, are mainly descendants from the Dutch, who began colonizing South Africa in 1652. Just to put it into perspective, the white South Africans make up around 7% of the population. But even nowadays, land and wealth is still largely concentrated with these people. Black people are around 81% of the population of South Africa. Now, after apartheid, a lot of white South Africans are saying that they're being discriminated against because the country, in certain instances, has been trying to give back to the black community. But the way Trump sees this is that these are countless government policies designed to dismantle equal opportunity in employment, education, and business, and hateful rhetoric and government actions fueling disappropriate violence against racially disfavored landowners. Of course, a white man of German descent in the US would say that about white South Africans in South Africa. Also, how can you dismantle something that doesn't exist in the first place? There is not equal opportunity in employment, business, and education in South Africa. White people are still favored. He then also talked about, South Africa, they also accused Izzy of genocide, so we are against them, because how dare they actually try to follow international law. I also believe that this is 100% the influence of his white apartheid baby, Elon Musk, whose family became as wealthy as they are now because of apartheid South Africa and because they were directly benefiting of the exploitation of black people. His grandparents are literal Yahtzees. South Africa's foreign ministry said it is ironic that the executive order makes provision for refugee status in the US for a group in South Africa that remains amongst the most economically privileged, while vulnerable people in the US from other parts of the world are being deported and denied asylum despite real hardship. Because yes, this is something that the US has also said, that they will give asylum and refuge to the white South Africans that have to flee because of all of this discrimination. Now, Colonial, the CEO of Afriforum, which describes itself as a civil rights group for Afrikaners, has said, "We want to show appreciation for President Trump for recognizing and identifying the discrimination that Afrikaners are experiencing. We became a people here. We are indigenous people in this country, and we are going nowhere." By the way, her group has been accused of racism countless times. Also, girlie, you have the right to live wherever you want, but calling yourself indigenous to a place where you are not in fact indigenous to, it is giving Izzy. Also, I even don't want to start talking about the fact how ironic it is that somebody like Donald Trump is talking about human rights violations. Does he care about the human rights violations that include countless white South Africans removing land from black people and non-white South Africans so that they can use it themselves, so that they can prosper and that they can take control of a land in Africa? Of course he does not. Unemployment and poverty remain acute among black South Africans, even 30-40 years after apartheid. because these systems that kept whites in power were never dismantled. But how do they say when you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression? And true equality in South Africa would make a lot of white people believe as if they are severely oppressed. Elon Musk and his family that got rich because of apartheid included.
There's a new national sport in South Africa, and it's normally played by people that oddly call themselves patriots, but also by people that call themselves African, but they look like me, and say the land is in their blood. Now, this national sport is fluffing and cheerleading for Musk, Trump, and the USA, while at the same time making sweeping, insulting, and ignorant statements about South Africa. So it takes a certain level of skill. My question to all these people is, how little self-respect do you actually have to stay in a country that you clearly hate, that you continuously denigrate and insult, that you haven't bothered educating yourself on? Why are you still here? Is it a skills thing? Is it an education thing? Don't any other countries want you? Why have you not made a plan to get your asses out of here? It's just weird for me. Now, I have had options both in the USA and in Europe. And I can say one of those options was very recently. But I can tell you that they would have to drag me kicking and screaming out of this country. I will not be leaving peacefully because I really love the country I was born in. So again, is it a lack of self-respect, or is it education, or is it skills? How can we help you?
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members, can we please take our seats? Honorable members, can we please take your seat and allow the President to address the House and the nation?
The Freedom Charter is the cornerstone of our democratic constitution. It sets out a vision of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa. It also sets out a vision of a country in which government is founded on the will of the people of South Africa, where the land is shared among those who work it, where the people share in the country's wealth and in all that the country produces and are all equal before the law. It is this vision that continues to guide us as we work to build the nation that we all want. It is the spirit of the Congress of the People that inspires us as we prepare for a national dialogue in which South Africans are once again called upon to chart a new path for our country. We must chart this path in a world that is rapidly changing. It is a world of both interdependence and competition, of cooperation and conflict. It is a multipolar world in which new countries are emerging to play a greater role in global affairs. We are seeing intensifying competition over issues such as trade, technology, and influence in global institutions. There are global fundamental shifts underway that affect every aspect of human life, from the growing impact of climate change to rapid advances in artificial intelligence, geopolitical tensions, and violent conflicts. In the face of these challenges, we are witnessing the rise of nationalism, protectionism, the pursuit of narrow interests, and the decline of common cause. This is the world that we, as South Africa, a developing economy, must now navigate. But we are not daunted to navigate our path through this world that constantly changes. We will not be deterred. We are, as South Africans, a resilient people, and we will not be bullied. We will stand together as a united nation, and we will speak with one voice in defense of our national interests, our sovereignty, and our constitutional democracy. By standing true to our values, by harnessing our unique strengths and endowments, and by forging a common purpose, we can turn these trying circumstances to our advantage and propel our country forward. As South Africans, we stand for peace and justice. We stand for equality and solidarity. We stand for a non-racial future, and we stand for democracy and tolerance as well as compassion. We stand for equal rights for women, for persons with disability, and for members of the LGBTQIA+ community. We stand for our shared humanity, not for the survival of the fittest. So this evening, let us speak of the nation that we want. Let us speak of the future that we want to build. Let us speak of the work that we as South Africans must do, and the work that we are doing to build that nation and to build that future. We want a nation united in its diversity. At many difficult moments in our past, we found strength in working together towards a common goal. Through partnership, we brought peace and democracy to our country, which was once troubled. We overcame apartheid, a crime against humanity that denied people their human rights, that deprived them of the land and livelihoods, that sought to strip them of their dignity, that humiliated them. Through partnership, we overcame a devastating pandemic and rebuilt our country in the wake of state capture as well. Together, we have built durable institutions that support our democracy, that protect our fundamental rights and promote the well-being of South Africans. We have built meaningful partnerships between government and business and labor and civil society and other social partners to drive growth and development. These stand as models of cooperation for the rest of the world. South Africans are continuing to work together to confront our country's challenges and build a nation that works for all. Guided by the wishes of the people as expressed in last year's elections, we have formed a government of national unity to give expression to our culture of cooperation. As political parties, we have set aside our differences and agreed to work together for the good of all South Africans. These reforms that we're implementing send a very strong message that South Africa is indeed open for business and tourism. As we open for tourism, the Chinese market, the Indian market, the market in the Middle East, the market in Europe and all over are waiting to come as tourists to our country. We want a nation in which prosperity and opportunity is shared by all. For many decades, our economy has been held back by the exclusion of the vast majority of South Africa's people. Black South Africans were deprived of land, of capital, of skills, and of opportunities. Our economy was starved of the potential that it has. And this is why we need to transform our economy and to make it more inclusive. That is why our focus is on empowering our people, on empowering women and persons with disabilities, because they were deliberately excluded from playing a role in the economy of their own country. And we will set up a transformation fund worth 20 billion rand a year over the next 5 years to fund Black-owned and small business enterprises. We will fast-track the regulations of the Public Procurement Act to ensure that businesses that are owned by women, by young people, and persons with disabilities receive equitable opportunities in government contracts. And we have started and will continue to train women entrepreneurs to enable them to compete for government tenders. In November last year, we launched the National Skills Fund Disabilities Program. In its first phase, this transformative initiative will empower over 10,000 persons with disabilities through tailoring training for them and through ensuring that they get stipends and specialized tools. This part of the work we must undertake as business, as government and labor and civil society to enable people with disabilities to play an important role in the economy of our country. For far too long, they've been relegated to the back rooms of everything. Through these programs, we are not only righting a grave historical wrong, we are unleashing the potential of our economy for sustained growth. We want a nation where there is work for all, where every person can earn a decent living and realize their potential, where the rights of workers are protected and working conditions are improved, where women and men receive equal pay for work of equal value.
You know Elon Musk?
Yeah, the fool.
No, yeah. You know, he says when he became owner of X, you know, or what was Twitter, he said freedom of expression. So he says anything what he wants, but other people can't.
No,
so we are expressing our views, our feeling. You know, this is how we feel about stuff and everything else. I mean, I saw he criticized Julius Malema. I don't know why, and he calls Julius Malema an international criminal. I don't know what crime Julius Malema has committed, but Julius Malema has responded, I mean, as the AFF leader. But the point is, Elon Musk must learn to stay in his lane.
Here's my thing. You were born in South Africa. You were privileged. You lived a privileged life to be able to even go to the US and continue living a privileged life at one of the country's most powerful economies. And you left us in South Africa. You're very proud to say that you don't want to be associated with South Africa. So why now?
Yeah.
Stay out of it. Like stay in the US.
In fact, Mr. President, Ramaphosa, please, that Starlink stuff,
please.
Please, asking you.
Asimfunti. Now, what did Gates and McKenzie say?
Stay there. No, Elon Musk, no, man. You know the poison, the toxicity that's boiling through the X platform against not just South Africa, by the way, the rest of the world. Even some Americans now are questioning his role.
Yes,
I mean, the guy who he spent billions bankrolling the Trump campaign. Now he's got some position and stuff like that. Now he thinks he's the power of everybody.
You know what I think? I don't think he deserves for his name to even be mentioned by us anymore.
Okay, I'm not mentioning it.
Yeah.
The ANC is now weighing in on the continued U.S. lies and propaganda about purported land grabs in our country.
Yeah, it says this is an attack on the country's sovereignty. The party spokesperson,
Now, seeing how Trump has reacted to the entire issue about South Africa and the white South Africans, you are able to see that nobody really cares about the plight of the black person in this world. Blacks were persecuted and people were called names. For example, Nelson Mandela was declared a terrorist and a wanted person, the most dangerous person ever to exist in this world, because he called for expropriation of land without compensation and he demanded the end of apartheid. And this is something that people and Western media and even Western nations and leaders thought that Africa will be contained and they will not have a voice to speak out. But Africans are speaking out. You've even watched how those journalists are speaking out and saying, stay in America, leave South Africa to us. And even whites, some of them are coming up and saying that you don't understand the full extent of what is going on in South Africa. I think that is where we should leave it. Africa will remain Africa. And from this that is happening to South Africa, other African countries must learn that any relationship with the Western world, for example, those who are persecuting your brothers, they can never be your friends. We can't have United States persecuting South Africa and calling South Africa names and issuing different kinds of orders towards South Africa. Yet there are certain African countries that can come out and say that we are part and good trade partners with the United States. That cannot work. We must come out and condemn United States as Africa. And I think this is something that African Union must come out and speak against it. How on earth would your sibling be attacked without any facts and then you still remain there quiet and not speaking? That must stop. Tell me down in the comment section what you think about this. And if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.